Welcome, everyone, to Coach Robbie's favorite holiday.
It's Thanksgiving, everybody. November 24th, 2022. Welcome aboard. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 636.
Yeah, and we thought we'd do a few cooking recipes and get you started for the right day. Got some.
Listen, to be honest, before we even get into the topic for today, and we are here both working on a Thanksgiving, but I will say this.
Just in case you didn't notice, we're working on a Thanksgiving.
Just in case you didn't notice, I'm very thankful that this is something that I'm actually not, because I drove in the office this morning, there's nobody in here, and it's like there's a Target across the street, a Costco, like all these big like retail stores. And I can't help but think, I was like, man, because I love what we do. Right. I love doing the podcast. I love coaching. I couldn't be any happier with, the life that like we've created for ourselves and what we get to do on a day-to-day basis, in that I'm not like, going upstairs, showering, putting my clothes on and just fucking miserable about what I have to go do, or spending the entire Thanksgiving day basically just dreading the fact that I've got to go show up and go to work on a Black Friday. And so I was like, it's very peaceful, but also very grateful that something I get to do as a choice, right? That we get to choose to do this on a Thanksgiving. So I'm very thankful for that. But what is because this is very important. Mm-hmm. What is your ideal? Because there's a lot of thoughts on Thanksgiving, on food. What's your typical spread?
Typical spread, man. I'm glad you didn't ask me what my ultimate thankfulness is about, because I was not prepared for that. I think it's always got to be turkey, man. Turkey and mashed potatoes. I guess that's really my staple right there. And then I can kind of venture into the, green beans and the cranberry sauce a little bit, just for a little flavor. But I'm I've always wanted to start a restaurant called Simple Bland Food. So turkey and and potatoes are right up my alley.
Dude, I'm right there with you. To me, like, we had breakfast this morning. We had egg casserole, hash brown casserole. We had some like chocolate muffins, chocolate chip muffins, and it's like cinnamon rolls. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, this is like perfection. It's like, welcome to the black and brown, the white and brown food holiday, because that's really what it is. You got turkey, you got mashed potatoes, you got dressing, and you got casseroles. It's like everything that's white and brown and like tan. It's like, that's Thanksgiving. Yeah, anytime you add in, which is how it should be. Anytime you start to add in green beans, something's going wrong. Something's going wrong. Like, my mom's up here for Thanksgiving, and I said, is everybody going to my Aunt Karen's, my khakis for Thanksgiving? She said, yeah. She said, well, not really at first, because she said she was doing ham this year instead of turkey, and everybody said they weren't coming. And so she changed it back to turkey, and now they're all coming and showing. I was like, that's how it should be. Like, it's turkey, it's dressing, it's mashed potatoes. Those are the staples, right? And then you got some kind of a pie, right? Pumpkin pie, chess pie, chocolate pie, maybe a cobbler, but don't do the fruit for like the green beans and the. I mean, I can get in with the cranberry sauce. That's fine, right? A little bit of color. It's like the dessert of the meal, right? The main course. Yeah. To kind of like get your palate ready for the dessert. But yeah, I mean, it's like, who doesn't want like some apple cobbler with some hot apple cobbler with some ice cream on it? I mean, that's Thanksgiving. That's right. That's why it's the best holiday on the planet.
Oh, what you're saying makes so much sense if you think about it. It's really kind of like Thanksgiving is kind of the earth tone holiday.
It is.
It's like we're coming up from the earth, man. There's no denying that. We have to connect to our earth. And then cranberry is kind of like the exquisite dark chocolate of,
that's right.
And it's like that real, it's the taste buds thing. You don't need a lot. You just kind of throw it in there, and it's like, all right.
We do this like really, at least my grandma used to do this like sweet potato casserole, and she'd do sweet potatoes on the bottom, and then on the top it's like half because we'd go back and forth on what we liked the best. So half of it was brown sugar and Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
And then the other half is like the tiny little marshmallows. The other was like melted marshmallows on top.
Yeah.
And before I like sweet potatoes, all I do is I would get in line first, and I would basically like scrape the biggest chunk off the top that I possibly could with like a small dab of a dip of sweet potato, and then plop it on the plate. And basically just get the topping. But that's another, like, again, it's a bland, earthy color, and tis the season, and that's okay. So again, we hope all of you are having a wonderful Thanksgiving. And if you're choosing to listen to this today, you've probably, trying to find some time to kill, or you're trying to avoid, awkward family conversations that you're going to get stuck in for the next 2 or 3 days. But we appreciate you. And it's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. And time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings on this planet, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I also talk a lot about what our own athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at their very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona, and everyone in between, and from all over the world. And we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question and let's right in. Great community, great resource, and honestly, just a lot of great people in there. And it's got the same level of experienced athletes, from beginners and people, honestly, who haven't even done a race. They're just kind of trying to find the information to get started, or even the motivation to get started, all the way up through Ironman champions and everyone in between. So utilize the group, don't lurk, be a part of it. And that's the best way to kind of get your own answers figured out. No such thing as a dumb question except the one you don't ask. And so you can be a part of that group, and we'll go in there occasionally, and we'll do a Q&A session about once a month. And but that's it. We don't do sponsors. We definitely don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and it's an important one, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Thank you for that intro. I think before we get into the topic, which is a good one that you have today, tomorrow is Black Friday, and what could be a better present for yourself than a training plan from C26? Yeah, we don't have advertising sponsors, but we do have products. And as an old-time marketer, I like to call this product marketing or content marketing. You have an opportunity to go out there and get a 2023 training plan for any race in North America. I mean, they're set up for specific races, but they translate, right? So that's the thing. C26triathlon.com. It's sitting right there. What a great present for yourself. Take care of yourself, man.
It's a great way to love yourself and setting yourself up for success and taking care of business. But yeah, those are out there, and that's our one way of trying to advertise for ourselves, which we're kind of terrible at. But yeah, we do have a topic. We'll try not to go too long today because we both got family and obligations, and we're happy to be here. But I was yesterday I was taking a little bit of relaxing time in the afternoon after I worked for a little bit, and I saw this documentary pop up, and I'm trying to give too much of it away because I do think everyone should watch it. Anyway, it's a documentary on Netflix called Stutz, and it's about an hour and a half, and it's about all about Jonah Hill, who's I would say decently famous actor, comedian, who's been incredibly successful, and his therapist. And it's fascinating for a lot of reasons, just because the relationship they have with each other, and how vulnerable they are and open and discussing things. It's something I really respected and actually got a lot out of it. But one of the reasons that he says he does this is to share. So his therapist's last name is Stutz, and he wants to share like all those tools that he has that's helped Jonah Hill kind of like transform and change his life. And one of the very first ones that they went through was something that really kind of hit home with me and clicked, that I also thought was very, very applicable to what we do and the message that we try to send our athletes and the people that listen on the podcast is, we're all about being happy and healthy. And that's not just in triathlon, but we really encourage our athletes, but also our listeners to really beyond this relentless pursuit of self-happiness, right? Being happy with yourself and happy with your life, and setting things up in a way that, you can really enjoy, a life that we all deserve. And then obviously, triathlon's place in it. But he, one of the first things they discuss is because Jonah Hill talks about, depression and anxiety and not being able to get out of bed and all these other feelings and thoughts. And one of the very first tools, like a quote unquote tools, that he kind of goes over is this thing called the life force pyramid. And he draws it out, and he said the very bottom of the pyramid. And this is why it kind of stuck out to me. It's the bottom level of the pyramid is your body. And this includes 3 key areas, because it's all about your relationship. The life force pyramid is a relationship with your body, a relationship with people, and then your relationship with yourself. And the base of the pyramid, like I said, it was the bottom of the pyramid is your body. And this includes 3 key areas: sleep, diet, and fitness. And he said that if you just simply focused on this one area of your life force pyramid, then you'd be 85% on the way home to being happier. Because his biggest thing is, and I thought was very fascinating, that he said as a therapist, from the very first time he met with someone, he wanted to give them an actionable way to feel better immediately. Not after 5 sessions, not after 10 sessions, not after, 30 or 60 days worth of pharmaceutical drugs got in their system. But he said, I really wanted the people that came into my office, and I'm obviously paraphrasing, to have something actionable to feel better immediately, an immediate type of release to kind of see some hope. And he said, the first thing I told him is the relationship with your body: sleep, diet, and fitness. And I was like, that has so much of like what we, not only when we talk about time, but has become like, almost opposite, right? Is a health, of people want to sleep less and work more, and it's no longer about diets. It's about crash diets and extreme things, no meat or all meat, or, veganism, or they're totally going the opposite direction, or, going on binge diets. And then, I'm going to have smoothies for 6 weeks, and then fitness, it's all about how little can I do to get results versus how many good things I can do for my body. I just find it incredibly fascinating that a therapist, obviously one that, probably doesn't have a bunch of 1-star Yelp reviews. If you get a celebrities, knocking down your door to go see you, that he said you could get 85% of the way by just eating right, sleeping more, and exercising. And just honestly, how simple that is. And again, it's something that we've talked about it. And I guess that's kind of the core of where we start today. And our message to our listeners is that, we always try to chase the most difficult things, right? Because that's what gets us excited. I was listening to another podcast yesterday, and this very, very well accomplished coach who coaches a bunch of just unreal professional athletes, he said, and we won't veer off on this, but it's a good example, I think, of how triathletes think. And he said, I said most all age group triathletes will give up in aero gains because they will lose it on their inability to shift and corner. And we triathletes spend all this money on aero gear and aero wheels, and they'll drop thousands of dollars, but the gains they make on that may be like 2 or 3 minutes over a full. They'll lose 5 to 6 to 7 minutes on their inability to handle their bike. Again, the example goes back to just how complicated we make everything when the simplest things in life are easy: sleep, diet, and fitness. And you connect with those things, and that's the thing, is that is an immediate action that you can put in to see results. And I know you've seen it, and when you don't have it, you feel it, and I'm the same way.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm sitting here thinking I wonder how much water wheels take off of my aero.
A lot.
So, when you brought this up, I was like, yeah, you're right. It is. I mean, you know me well enough to know that this is right up my alley. About 6 years ago or something like that, I remember I was living in Nashville, and I was kind of in this just funkified place. And I turned on the Rogan podcast, and he was interviewing this guy, Wim Hof. And I I've talked about him many times, the Iceman, but it was one of those pivotal moments in my life, I feel like, because he was talking about this in a different way. He was mainly saying we got to go to the core of the body. And that's what he's a cold water plunger and a deep breather and all that kind of stuff. But he was saying like in a different sort of way, like what this therapist was saying is that you don't have to think your way there. You just have to go there. Right. So like his philosophy, I mean, he basically is saying that when you do what I'm talking about, it takes care of itself. Right. And I think that's one of the things about living now. And I think, excuse me, we were talking about my mom and my cousins and my brother last night about how life has become so easy now in a lot of ways. And my mom she goes, I don't know. It seems a lot harder because she's been, her whole life she just like gets out and works and moves and does things and, is always out there. But now it's like this easy thing because you can just go click things on your phone and find information and whatever. So it's like the opposite of what you're saying this therapist is saying in a way. It's like he didn't mention anything about straight, learn more and get in your head more and find more information and figure out ways to, do sales funnels and all these kinds of things. He's just basically saying, get back to your body and get back to your sleep and get back to your movement. And it's just one of those things that I love how he said actionable, because it truly is one of those things when we talk about movement as medicine, and I completely buy that. It's all about moving around. And the other thing I was talking about last night was, like how my cousin Jen, they work in a library and they talk about books and what kids are because they deal with a lot of kids programs. A lot of kids are having trouble these days, it seems like. And one of my theories is that this is like the third generation of fast food in the world. So, when I was growing up, it was there, but it wasn't something that we did. And then my friends got older, they started eating it, and then they have children and they're eating it a lot. And then they have children and they're eating it all the time. And it's sort of like this third generation of DNA fast food that has sort of taken over. And it's not even real food. I was listening to something the other day. It's like McDonald's fries aren't even potatoes. It's like, what even is this anymore? So I think there's a huge thing with all that going on. And I like the idea of really just kind of getting back to, and that's back to the Wim Hof thing, is like, you jump in cold water and that just wakes your body up and gets things working and moving. And the same with obviously the fitness that we pursue in triathlon. And it doesn't have to be insane amounts of volume, but if you get out of bed, or like you're saying, and a lot of people work at home or whatever, and I do, and it gets harder and harder to get moving around. And it's not like, it is a mystery on a, sort of spiritual level, why that is what it is, but it's really, like he was saying, what'd you say, 85% of it can be solved by just getting
85% of the way, the way there. Because he was talking so much about how it was such a struggle to get out of bed in the morning. And I think one of the main things, in that kind of the sleep right, eat right, and exercise is it enhances your ability to fight the world. Right, to be resistant, because one of the big messages throughout the documentary is life is very much like a string of pearls, and you can't put so much, so you can't make one pearl, because every pearl is basically an action and something that happens. And he says there's great things that can be had from everything, no matter how great or how bad it is. If you just look at it as something that happens, then you're going to be able to continue to move through life, because the therapist has Parkinson's disease, which is also a fascinating piece of this documentary. But he's like, you got to keep moving forward. No matter what, you've got to keep moving forward, which is somebody like myself who's used to struggle mightily with depression. I mean, especially before, when I was drinking a ton. I mean, before I even started drinking like really, really bad, there were weeks where I wouldn't get out of bed. I mean, my mom still, there's this apartment complex off Hillsborough Road that my mom she hates driving by, because she came to my door one day. I think I was like 22 or 23. and she had to come get me and take me home because I was so depressed. I had left my apartment for like 3 days. I was sitting in my room. It was black. I just couldn't get out of bed. And it was treating myself like a carnival and doing all these horrible things. That's actually, it's coincidentally enough, maybe 3 months later is when I found triathlon. And I wasn't taking pharmaceuticals. It was just, I hopped on a scale and saw how overweight and unhappy I was and got back in the pool. I talked about that before in the podcast too. I only made it like a 50 and then left, but I started to make at least a commitment to exercise and eat right. And then that leads to sleeping better. Right. And then what it does is it allows you to handle life's obstacles so much better and keep moving down. Things that they used to knock you down in the past don't knock you down anymore, right? They might you might buckle over for a minute because you take one to the gut, but you don't fall over. You don't need help getting up. You get up, or you don't fall over. And so it's just, I think, a really important piece and a piece to appreciate, right? And something that we've discussed a few times lately is how we tend to really just not appreciate and keep the level of gratitude for what we're able to do, and how we can so easily allow negativity and self-criticism into our hearts and into our mind about what we do and what we can't do instead of what we're able to do and what we are doing versus the rest of the world, right? And it's really an incredible thing. And then the next part of the pyramid, which is I especially like watching this, and then you and I talked about this a lot. This is, I think, one of the most underrated pieces of life that is unfortunately going away. And hopefully there will be not. But in the middle level of the life force pyramid is people. This area is all about connection, community, and relationships. But the twist is that you have to take the initiative to reach out to people. You have to initiate the connections with the intent of growing the relationships, regardless of how interesting the person is or isn't. Whether it's personal or professional, we can all learn so much from each other in some capacity. We just have to be open to the gifts we receive from the interactions that we have with others. That line right there. We just have to be open to the gifts we receive from the interactions we have with others. And that has become a dying exchange that we have as a human race with the last 2 or 3 years, where we now, people can make excuses for not wanting to leave the house and working remotely, right? It's like, there's benefits to working remotely, and you and I have had it, but it also gets lonely as fuck, right? Yeah. Something you and I have talked about a lot is like, we work alone, we go to an office alone, we building a community with athletes, but it can be lonely, right? And what's one of the biggest things I miss about the hub is connecting with people that come in and you and I share an office, and then it's just everybody you can all do things virtually. It's setting up a Zoom or doing this or a FaceTime or whatever. And it's just, there's nothing, and there never will be anything that replaces human connection. And you hear people say, well, I'm lonely or I'm isolated all the time. And a lot of that's our choice, right? We don't have the courage or we're not putting the effort to go out and meet people and put ourselves in situations because it's true. You can't go out to dinner or go to coffee or go grab drinks or go for a run with a buddy and come back and feel worse. You always feel better. So, I mean, yeah. we got run camp coming up, and, starts on Tuesday, and people, it's advertised as a run camp because we do a shit ton of running, but what it is one big gigantic 5-day long piece of connecting with people that will make you happier and sharing things. And that last line about, your interactions and the gifts that others can give you, because you can sit at a table with someone who has, totally opposite job, totally opposite upbringing, might have totally different belief system, that you have in religion and or in politics. but you can still have a meaningful and then because that's the thing is like no one in with the political climate we've all created, and same thing with religion. It's like no one ever kind of talks across the aisle with other people, and what we're doing is we're missing out on so many opportunities to connect with other people, because we do. Everyone has a gift to give. Everyone, no matter if you think it or not, every conversation has the opportunity to, I mean, even like the slight conversations I have with neighbors, like, walking out to Hayden to go to school, and our neighbor comes outside and we talk for like 5 minutes. I always leave happier, even when we talk about absolutely nothing important. Mm-hmm. It's human connection. And it's becoming a lost art. Not a lost art, but it's becoming one of those lost value systems, I guess, in what's important to people and what makes us happen. You wonder why we're more depressed than ever, and more anxious than ever, and sadder than ever, and unhappier than ever. It's like because we're all lonely, or not all lonely, but a lot of people are lonely, right? And they're not going out and doing things and connecting. And it's about connection. And again, like that's one of the pieces that you and I are the most proud of, is the community that we've created and the relationships that we've helped cultivate and grow. And it's so important for people's mental and emotional health, to connect with other people and really use the relationships that you have.
Absolutely, dude. It's always kind of funny that we're on similar pages, because, I have been doing these videos and putting them in the Facebook group and kind of pushing my thing. But part of that process has been, today I've been working on one that this morning, that I was going back through old photos of the whole journey and just finding pictures of everybody throughout the years with the C26 events and things like that. And it's just like immediately got me in a better place. It's so easy to avoid things these days. I mean, it's easy to do that. I was talking to my buddy. I was out for lunch, as you said, and immediately was feeling better because we text a lot. This guy that I grew up with, and we ended up going out for lunch. I mean, we live in here for 4 months now. I think I've seen him twice. It's ridiculous. We have a text thread, and I'm like, when are you fuckers gonna start coming to lunch? I'm sick of texting with like 60-year-old men on a text thread. It makes no fucking sense.
My life,
huh?
Said, welcome to my life.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm like, we live in the same town. Let's go for breakfast or something, But anyway, we were talking, and he was talking about his kid, who's 24 maybe, and he was talking to his kid about ghosting, this phenomenon today, of dating or whatever. And he said, and it's not only just dating, but with his friends, it's so easy to get out of shit. And, like if you just, they were going to go out to, I don't know, a Bucks game because he lives in Milwaukee or something like that. Or maybe it was just a pregame party or something. And he's like, yeah, I didn't go. I just sent a text, And my buddy is like, if you would have backed out on us back in the day, next time we saw you, we would have, grabbed you by and said, where the fuck were you, You're getting people, we used to kind of get in people's face about stuff like that a little bit. And it was kind of harder to back out. But the point is, it's so easy to back out that you keep kind of going back into your shell. And because it's more comfortable, it's sort of like that safety over freedom kind of concept again. And there's so many ways to get out of stuff, and everybody's so forgiving and about that. And it's just kind of weird. Because I do think on both sides, it's sort of like, well, he didn't want to go. I didn't really want to go either. So great. I'm glad he's not going. But it's sort of like jumping in the ice bath. You don't want to do it, but you always feel better when you do it. Or you go out for a run or whatever it is. And I think those things become so easy to avoid. You can't, like I'm buying a car right now. And I've been going through the process. And I actually went into the dealership. And it was kind of funny because these guys are like doing the takeaway on me, man. It's my marketing philosophy from back in the day. You just kind of act like you're not interested. And so when have you ever been into a car dealer and you made an offer and you said, hey, I'll put about this X amount of cash down. And it's like, I'm ready to buy a car. And he's like, yeah, sorry, we can't do it.
And they're like, nah, we're good.
And
yeah,
like,
usually you pull in the parking lot, there's 18 dudes standing out front. Half of them are smoking cigarettes. And the moment you pull in,
I know.
Half of them put it out on the sidewalk and they're like surrounding your car, right?
I 100%, dude.
And little Taurus over here on the side, I can get you in it for $4,500.
I did the I did. I was like, all right, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to walk around the lot but it was so damn cold. I only walked for about 30 seconds. And then
that was the ticket. They knew you were weak when they saw you do that.
Exactly. So I went in and I had to walk up to the guy's desk. And he looks up, he goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He didn't even see me come in, bells ringing and shit. And I'm trying to buy a car and I've got cash on the table and they go, "Sorry, we can't do it." And I go, "What do you mean? You can't do it?" And he goes, "Well, it's just not going to work." I go, "Well, I guess I'll just keep looking elsewhere." And he goes, "Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you." He just anyway, the point being, the negotiations have continued, but they're on email and, I was ready to do the deal and now it's kind of strung out. And it's just sort of a symbol of what I'm talking about is it's like, you don't talk on the phone with people anymore. Even that versus just throwing a bunch of, fragmented text at somebody or something. Just getting on the phone and like this podcast, it always fires me up whenever we get here because our energy, that body force, what do you call it? Life force energy?
Life force
pyramid.
Life force.
There's energy going here with you and I and even these simple things like that. But that whole ghosting thing is just crazy. People just kind of, okay, you didn't, you promised, but it's like.
No, I love what you said about you can't you just text you can text now and be like, I'm not showing up. I won't be there. And,
you don't have to face
back
them.
In the day, if you told someone in person you were coming, you weren't going to see him again until it's time to show up. So you better fucking show because if you don't, then you're never hearing the end of it.
Oh,
ever.
There's a price to pay.
Well, yeah, once you're in, you're in. And I think one of the analogies that we've discussed before is once you're, retreating to yourself or retreating because you're nervous to do something or whatever, it's like once you retreat, it's always going to be easier to retreat. And then the more you do it, the easier it's going to be, right? But the more you convince yourself to fight forward, to move forward, to get up out of your bed and to get going for another day and to fight your way through whatever obstacle it is you're going through life, the stronger and easier it's going to feel the next day to do it again. Right. The same thing goes with working out and training is the more time you take off, the easier it is to not do it. I said, I had the same thing. I've been sick, obviously. And Monday or Tuesday, I got up. I was like, I'm going for another long walk. I'm going to hold off on running. Wednesday, I went for a long walk. This morning, I was like, all right, I'm going to go for a run. I'm pretty much back to 100%, I feel like. But even though I wanted to, my body was like, we talked about this before. It was resistance. It's like, nah, but you can just not. It's Thanksgiving, you got excuses. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to run. And I felt obviously a million times better. No one was out. I ran with the dog and it was just, I got to be thankful, that I had the ability to do it and that I made the choice to move forward, right? And to not be stuck. Right. And that's just a huge piece that we get so hung up on so many things so often that it really is going back to the string of pearls analogy. It's the same thing, because he talked about, there's not one great, they're all the same shape. They're all the same size. They all look identical. The point is to just keep stringing them together. And that's something we've talked about so many times with our athletes is that, you can't look at workouts as, there's one great one and there's one terrible and the rest of them all just fit in the middle. There's one greatest swimmer on the planet. There's one worse. The rest of us are in the middle. You don't get a special ranking for being 331st or 420th. You're still in the middle. And that's how you have to look at workouts. So you can't put so many eggs in one basket that it ends up being this gigantic success or this astronomical failure. You just kind of have to take it for what it is. And the biggest win is that you did it. You strung another one together, right? You put a brick on top of a brick, you're stacking chips, however you want to say, your links to a chain. The point is just to keep connecting. And because if you're continuing to move forward, you're going to keep connecting it. And that helps the way you feel. And that brings us to the third one, which I think is without question the hardest one. The top of the pyramid, it's yourself. And I think it's fascinating how he starts off with, your relationship with your body and the relationship with people, because I think you need those two pieces, right, to be as strong as possible. Because I do think this is the hardest one. And the top level of your life force pyramid is yourself, the relationship with yourself. And this level is all about fostering relationship with your unconscious. And the way you do it is by writing. Simply writing in a journal or notebook is all it takes. And it doesn't matter what it is. As you write, your unconscious will come out in the process. And then one of the fascinating results of doing this work is that it will help you discover your passions in life. I know so many that don't even know what those truly are. I don't write. I know you write a ton, but what I will say is that because I was thinking about this when this came up in the documentary things, I was like, man, Mike, I know Mike writes a ton, almost daily, if not daily. And while I don't write, this podcast is a different way that I write. We don't, and this isn't a surprise. We don't script our podcasts. We don't edit our podcasts. We rarely have, any kind of structure beyond, a topic, a 3 or 4 word topic, right, that we think we're going to discuss. We just, hey, you want to talk about this today? Yeah, let's talk about that. And it's both, subconsciously what we've kind of had in our mind or what we're feeling or what we're thinking. And then we just talk uninhibited, vulnerable, without, worried about a filter or making someone happy or making someone mad. It just kind of comes out, and it helps me at least work through any thoughts or feelings or anxieties or confusion in my life. Because when I get done with doing this podcast and just talking to you for an hour and just kind of like letting things flow, I always feel like a sense of relief, and then a better sense of direction in where I want to go. Because I feel like that's like a more, my physical way of writing is just kind of chatting it through, this podcast, that we do for 2 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's how I've always thought about writing. And really for me, it's sort of, it forces you to articulate your thoughts or clean them up or something, or at least, I don't always look for solutions. In fact, when I write a lot, and a lot of my writing is journaling, and I started doing that, I think, I've done it for a long, long time, but there was what was that? I forgot the name of the book. The Artist's Way, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And it has that thing called the morning pages. And that's what, it's just remarkable what that does. And that's like something I really need to get back into, is like you just get up. The first thing you do is just sit down with a binder and write freehand for 3 pages. And it's remarkable how you can wake up in a weird state, like, what am I going to do? Or how am I going to do this? Or I don't know how to deal with these things. And you just kind of just write, and you don't try to solve problems. You just start pouring crap out of your brain. And by the end of the 3rd page, it's almost like, and this is how I'm going to do it, or whatever. And like, it was incredible how it does sort through that kind of thing. And I think there's something about, when I talk about meditation, it's all about sort of calming the shit down that doesn't matter. It's sort of all these other things trying to get in your thought process. It confuses the way to the end. And so I think writing for me has always been that. It is. I mean, it's kind of funny that it comes from a therapist, because I always call writing my therapist. Mm-hmm. And when you kind of do that and make yourself articulate thoughts, and over time it just becomes, cleaner and cleaner. And it's really, like you're talking about, it's just sort of building a habit and working a muscle to move forward. And I think that if you can get, a lot of times for me, it's sort of, there's these, you're not exactly sure how you're going to handle things. You don't know why. It doesn't seem that difficult, but there's always other, subconscious thoughts. And that's what he was talking about. Dealing with your subconscious really is calming that down and getting those confusing pieces sorted out and moving forward with clarity, really. And I mean, writing is super powerful like that. I mean, you don't have to, I think that, one of the challenges with writing is that you don't want to write poorly ever, even if it's just in a journal. So you kind of start self-editing, and that's not what you do. That's not what you should do, especially when you're kind of brainstorming
right
in a journal. You don't want to self-edit and work on grammar and punctuation the whole time.
It's like the good version of word vomit.
Yeah. I used to write for a local entertainment rag in Rockford, Illinois. For everybody out there, had some legendary articles for that paper on bands and whatever. But the publisher, he was kind of a crazy man, but he was one of these savant type guys in a weird way. But he goes, every time you sit down to write, just close your eyes and start typing. and don't worry about anything, how it looks or anything. Just start getting your head together, or just let your thoughts come clean, and that's the true creative spirit, is that flow that you get in writing. And that's why I'm so interested in how flow state mentally translates into flow state on the course, and getting to your most relaxed state where you can perform the best. And it's just so interesting to me that, because I do think that really translates in racing stuff too.
One of the most fascinating pieces about, our subconscious is that with the way society is now, is that we rarely ever go there. Yeah. Right. Because in order to go into your subconscious about what you're, what you're really thinking and feeling and going through or want to do, right, you have to be still and silent and let things come up. And whether it's, a good thing or a bad thing, it just comes out. Right. And I think that's what he's trying to get people to do with the writing, is that, you can't be staring at your phone when you write. You can't be, listening to the TV. It's like you need, to focus on you. And then we just don't do it anymore. Right. We rarely dived. I mean, I talked about a few weeks ago. It's like, I can listen to Pearl Jam Pandora or a podcast on a walk, and I get value from that, but I never get as much value as when I go and just take a walk and let my thoughts go. Mm-hmm. And where they may, because it's always because you always I think it's always a great feeling when you're thinking and you end up thinking, how did I get here? Right. It's like, why am I thinking of this? Right. It's like something triggered something, but it's all meaningful, right? We just don't go there anymore. And it's because, the world is, I heard on a podcast a few weeks ago, it's like, we're at war with the world with our attention. Right. And in 2019, Google did about $41 billion in advertising. In 2023, they're going to do $75 billion in advertising. And you can call it advertising, but what it is a war on your attention. Right. Mm-hmm. Everything you do, it's artificial intelligence, there's algorithms, there's advertising, there's marketing. Every time you pick up your phone, every time you look at a TV, everything is basically vying for your attention in 20-second, 30-second, 45-second bursts, right? TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It all takes your attention away from your own life. And that's why we don't go into our subconscious anymore to really feel about what we really want or what we want to achieve. We're usually being, whether you say, everything and every person and every item on this planet is an influencer, in my opinion. We're all influenced from the time we pick up our phone, whether you believe it or not. From Joe Schmo down the street with 10 friends on Facebook to the fitness Instagram follower you have on what's got that is always doing videos. Like, we're all influenced, right? But what should influence us the most is where we are in life and what we want the most, and you can't know that unless you listen to yourself. And we just don't spend enough time doing that anymore and realizing most of us can't even understand or really realize what is important to us because we're so distracted and we're not listening to our subconscious. So things like, writing or talking it out or just letting it go, because you never know where you're going to end up. And that's, I think, some of our most negative reviews in our podcast has been like, what are these guys even talking about? Do they have any direction? Which is like, we're just working shit out, man. This is our therapy session too. We're just two guys spending 2 hours a week talking to each other, which is an hour and 59 minutes more than most people do, in a week. And it helps both of us. And luckily enough, it's helped other people, right? Because hopefully listening to this podcast it's not a form of writing, but it kind of allows you to gain things from it, because it's we have a little bit of structure sometimes, but it just kind of goes and then lets you, we always joke about, Seinfeld, a show about nothing, because you can make it what you want to make it. Right. And that's why it's so important to go for runs and rides and swims and you solve the world's problems when you're in the shower, or you're swimming. That's because you're forced into your own mind. Right, you're forced into your own subconscious because you can't be distracted. You're stuck, right? You can't do it on a bike ride all the time, but or run. But people lose themselves when they go run. They don't forgot how far they went because it's so great to do that. And we just don't live in a world like that anymore, which is unfortunate, but it also doesn't mean it's impossible, right? To live that life and going back to that pyramid, with your life force pyramid is how simplistic it is, right? To be happier and to focus on yourself, right? I mean, your body, to sleep better, to eat better, to exercise and take care of yourself, and then to connect with people, right? I mean, honestly, doing those two things, I mean, it probably gets you 95% of the way there.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it honestly does. And it's just crazy to think about how simple that is, right? Connect with yourself, connect with other people, and then, connect with your subconscious, like in your inner being and your heart, whatever it is, like it's so easy. Right. And it was really interesting to hear that come from like a therapist, because that's one of their, they're usually putting you on drugs or whatever, or trying to, help this or help that. I'm like, it really is like that easy to, and it is, you can say, oh, it's easy for you or it's easy for me. It's like, it is like the rules of it are easy. It's the application, and it's your ability or inability to focus on it that makes it hard or not. And I think that's, I think ultimately the message we're trying to get across today is, a day where we're supposed to be thankful for, everything, and you list out your things you're thankful for and whatever it is. And it's, what you want to do is be thankful for how you treat yourself, and because we're all better. There's a fact. We're all better. We're all better people. Right. And you talk about training and taking care of yourself. That's what most people say. I'm always better when I'm training, and that's why, because why? Because it's pretty simple. You're already knocking out the 85% of your body, right? You're already focusing on sleep, probably. You're already focusing on your diet, and you're already focused on your fitness. That's no wonder you're a better person, right? It's the foundation of that life force pyramid. And then you can, hopefully you're connecting with people, they're like-minded. And then, obviously the work you do on your, your subconscious, it's a great message. And I think, as we kind of go into, a busy holiday season and a next year of people focusing on, weight loss or new times or better jobs or saving money, is like the best gift you can give yourself is to treat yourself right. Right. Because you got one body, you're not getting a new one. And I think that's hopefully the message you got from the podcast today is that, if you're going to be thankful for something, be thankful for how you treat yourself. Because ultimately, if you do that, then the rest just comes easier.
Man, yeah, I like how you put it. It's really easy if you just boil it down to the basics. And one of the things that's super frustrating to me is to read, and we talk about them as hacks or, this deep dive into research or science or biology and all this shit, and this like obsessive quest to figure out why things work or how they work or whatever, and how the body works and all that. It's like, dude, every day there's something new, right, that you need to supplement more with or whatever. And it's all a bunch of crap, man. It's just, you just take care of your body and move and eat well and be with people and shit and treat yourself right, with your thought process. It's pretty simple, but we get so wrapped up, man, in ketones and it just goes on and on and on. And I think it just confuses us. So let's just step back and simplify and get the clutter out of the way. And like you said, be thankful for how you treat yourself. And I'm thankful that my brother's in town and he's doing all the chores that my mom had on for me outside in the yard. He's cleaning gutters, doing all kinds of shit that I've been kind of putting off. Yeah, Chris is in town. He says hi, so is my mom, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody from the family here in Beloit. And thank you, Chris, for doing all the dirty work.
That's who he is, man. He's the nose to the stone, man.
Yeah, he is. Grinding it out, man.
Yeah, he played that card well. I just kind of wait till whatever and listen, because that's always the thing. Like when I'll go over to my grandmother at my Mimi's house or something, and she'll be like, "Oh, I'd love to see you." yeah, come on over. We'll have lunch. She'd be like, all right. And before you leave, I got this little list. Could you help me with? And I'm like, I'm thinking like, it's like change a light bulb or two. And every grandma does this, like every single one. And I'm like, gosh, it's like, like I said, change a light bulb. It's like, all right, move these 19 planted pots from the front steps to the back, right? Change 4 light bulbs, move this dresser from this room because it's a different season. And it usually takes like 3 hours. And she's like, it shouldn't take you but just a minute or two. It's really not a big deal, as she's
Right.
munching on her chicken salad sandwich, of the 5th one she's had this week. Every grandma does that. And they always do it around the holidays. Like, oh, could you put up my tree?
Yeah.
And there's like a laundry list of other things. Oh, I just really appreciate you doing this. You're like, yeah, don't. So when you go to grandma's, you're not going just for milk and cookies or some special time with grandma on the rocking chair. You're going to do work. I mean, you are 100% going to do work. They invite you over because they love you, but they also got shit for you to do.
Yeah. They all have the dusty wheelbarrow hanging up in the garage. And say, I think it's over in the corner. It's like they bought it for you. It's used twice a year.
Oh my God, it's so true. It's like, you might need a little bit. Let me call your cousin Will to come over here. And you guys, I'm like, why are we like, we move this couch back and forth once a year, every year for the last 6 years. Why are we? I really just kind of think that she does it to kind of like gauge if we're going to always do this for the rest of our life, just to kind of like put the thumb down of, a power ship on the back of these young kids. And I'm like, yeah, you still got it. Cause you can't say no, right? To your grandma. You can't say no. You can be like, nah, I'm not your grandma. I'm good. She'd be like, what? What did you just say to me?
No, but it makes you feel better too, man.
It does. I mean, doing stuff for other people. It is. It's a great day. It's a great holiday. And I got nothing but love for it. So happy to do this podcast today. Happy to bring it to the people and hope you got something from it. Obviously, it's not super triathlon related, but it's you related, and something we've always been steadfast and purposeful about is, we want this podcast to help you in your triathlon life, but if it doesn't help you in your personal life, then frankly we're underachieving, because we think we have we're fortunate enough to have I'd say a halfway decent platform, of millions of downloads and a decent reach to people, not just, the method we have to reach is triathlon, but the message doesn't have to stop there. And that's where, you and I both take a lot of pride and responsibility in that, is that we do have the ability to be on, on somebody's radio in the car, or on their headset, or in the house, for an hour, and to hopefully bring you guys something positive that you can take and make yourself a better life, right? Because the better your life is, the better it all, better we all are. And to do that, and I think that's a great thing for us, and I know it's a great thing for you and I, and the reason we love what we do so much. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And if you need anything, you know where to find us. Mike's at CrushingIron@gmail.com. And if you need anything from me specifically, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Yeah, same to you guys. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man. Bye.